The Lantern in the Fog. The old coastal town slept under a heavy blanket of fog. Streets were empty, except for a single lantern glowing near the abandoned lighthouse. Evelyn had passed this road 100 times, but tonight the light was different, warmer, almost inviting. She followed it, her footsteps echoing against the wet cobblestones. When she reached the lighthouse door, it creaked open by itself. Inside, the lantern burned on a wooden table. Next to it lay a journal, open on the last page. The ink was fresh, the handwriting hurried. The sea calls again. If anyone finds this, follow the light. Before it fades, Evelyn froze. The flame flickered, and for a moment she swore she saw a shadow moving in the mist outside. She had two choices: close the door and walk away, or take the lantern and follow the call into the unknown. Evelyn hesitated only for a heartbeat before lifting the lantern from the table. The handle was cold, and as soon as she touched it, the flame inside seemed to brighten, cutting deeper through the fog. The moment she stepped outside, the mist shifted. It no longer felt like weather, it felt alive, swirling with purpose, guiding her down toward the rocky shore. Waves crashed in the distance, louder than she remembered. Like the sea itself was restless. As she walked, she noticed footprints in the damp earth. They were fresh, leading in the same direction the lantern's glow pulled her. Evelyn's pulse quickened. She was not the first to follow this light. At the shoreline, the sea was boiling, churning in unnatural patterns. The footprints ended at the edge of a jagged cliff. Evelyn raised the lantern, and for a brief second the fog cleared, revealing a figure standing below on the rocks. It was a man, dressed in an old sailor's coat, his back turned to her. His head tilted slightly, as if listening to whispers only he could hear. Then, without warning, he stepped into the frothing water. Evelyn gasped. The sea swallowed him instantly, but instead of drowning, his body seemed to dissolve into the waves, like salt returning to the ocean. The lantern in her hand pulsed with heat. The journal's words echoed in her memory. The sea calls again. The waves surged, reaching higher, and from the mist above the water rose shapes, figures, half-formed, shimmering like they were made of moonlight and foam. They looked human, yet not entirely. Their eyes glowed faintly, fixed on the lantern she carried. One of them spoke, though its lips never moved. The voice filled her mind like a tide rushing in. The light is the key. Return it, or follow us. Her knees weakened. The lantern's glow flickered between comforting warmth and unbearable weight. She understood now. The flame was not just a light. It was a tether, binding the living to the sea, a doorway between worlds. Behind her, the fog thickened, hiding the safety of the town. Ahead, the ocean churned with impossible power, calling her deeper. Evelyn had always felt the town was suffocating, too small, too ordinary. The sea, terrifying and eternal, offered something else: mystery, freedom, maybe even truth. The voices of the glowing figures rose together like a song, ancient and haunting. The water shimmered as though opening a path. She clutched the lantern, heart pounding. If she let it fall into the sea, the bond would break, and the light would vanish forever. If she followed the figures, she would never return to the life she knew. The mist curled around her ankles like a hand, pulling gently toward the water. Evelyn closed her eyes, and then, with a deep breath, she stepped forward. The lantern flared one last time, its light swallowing the fog in a brilliant flash. When it faded, the shoreline was empty. Only the sound of waves remained. The townspeople who wandered there the next morning found the lighthouse door open, the journal still on the table. The final page had changed. The last line now read, "The sea calls again. Evelyn has answered."